Hey guys, Coach Travis from Personal Peak here. I'm just going to give you a couple of tips on how to get yourself technically set up for the summer race series and how to use the GPS settings on your watch or your phone to get the most accurate tracking of your distance on race day. Most of the time you don't need to worry too much about your GPS settings when you're racing because the course is measured and you're out there running that course. Virtual racing is a little different. When it comes to getting a good time or a distance when you're using something like Strava or a GPS watch, there's a few tips and hints that you can do to just get a little bit extra distance that makes your data more accurate of how your effort was on race day. The three things you're going to want to think about when you're getting all set up for race day are number one, the course that you're going to pick, number two, the recording frequency that your watch is using, and number three, the accuracy of those recordings that your watch or your phone are taking. Let's talk about course selection first. So when you're picking a course, you want to make sure that you have a course that you're going to use that has minimal twists and turns to it. So I've drawn three hypothetical courses for us here, and we're going to kind of talk through the differences between each of them. So this first one I've got on the left is one big, nice, smooth curve, or if you're running loops or on a track or something like that. GPS will track something like that all right because you're not having big, gross changes in direction. The next type of course you could potentially select is either an out and back or one big straight line. That's going to give you the best accuracy because the GPS isn't cutting off any corners or anything like that. And finally, if you were to have something, I just kind of drew it out as a triangle here, but if you had something like a triangle, you've got a few sharp bends, or if you have a course where you're running switchbacks or something like that, the GPS is going to struggle a little bit with that. And that brings us to our next 2 points. And those 2 points are recording frequency and the accuracy of those individual recordings. So recording frequency is how often your GPS is recording the location of where you are. And that's going to change quite a bit depending on the type of watch you have, the type of settings that you're using. So it's a really good thing to check in on and see what your watch is using before you start your race. I have 2 examples here, and these are going to be the ones that I'll talk about first. So this one here, I've got lots of little dots. These ones, I have fewer dots. So that's every single time your watch takes your position. All it does is it takes position A, position B, figures out the distance between the two, and assumes that you ran from point A to point B. So if you have a watch with a high recording frequency, say it's taking your location every second or every half a second, you're going to have a fairly accurate track of how far you've run. If you have something where it's taking say a location every 30 seconds or every minute or more than that, it's going to be a lot harder to kind of get any twists and turns in your course, and it's going to be a little bit less accurate to the distance that you actually did during the race. If we look at the difference between these 2 examples here, so in this first one, we're running this course that's a nice loop, that's a triangle shape. We've got lots and lots and lots of little dots, and so your watch is going to do a good job calculating how far it took you to run all of those different pieces. Alternatively, if we look at this one down here, and we're only taking those distances at each point, anytime we go around one of those sharp corners, we're going to miss all that distance because the watch is just calculating between those 2 points. So if we actually recorded this, we would miss that corner, we would miss this corner, and we'd miss this corner, and you'd end up with something that kind of smooths out into almost a little bit more of a circle or some kind of strange shape. So you're missing the distance that you did in fact run on all of those corners. So for race day, the higher the recording frequency that you can have on your watch, the better, more accurate you're going to have. And alternatively, if you just avoid running corners like that, you wouldn't run into that kind of an issue if you just ran a big straight line, or if anytime you needed to make a turn, you did it in one big smooth curve instead of a sharp like 45-degree angle like we got on those there. The final thing to think about is the accuracy of your device. So some watches out there, they'll do less accurate measurements to give you a little bit better battery life. For some of the shorter races when you're only out there for 45 minutes or 3 hours, those would be really, really good ones to not worry about your battery life and just bump up that accuracy as much as possible. If you have kind of points where they're missing and it's a couple meters off to one side or a couple meters off to another side, it's going to be a little less accuracy. And almost all the time, when your GPS is less accurate, it's going to give you a shorter distance as opposed to a longer distance. It almost never works out in your favor. So it's always good to bump up those settings to their maximum so that you get the best possible data and you track every step that you do out there and you get a better result on race day. if somebody beats you by a couple of meters and they've just got a little bit better GPS settings, it can be a little bit frustrating when you knew you ran that extra distance. So hopefully that helps you out for race day. Feel free to comment here if you have any questions in terms of other settings that you can do or what it's going to be like for your specific watch. And good luck with the race, and we'll see you on Saturday.